Okay, I'm a little bit later than I want to be with this, but let's just get straight into it anyway. You know, bullet point by bullet point, image by image. By now, I put this video off because information got like trickled out a little bit by a little bit, and I wanted to wait until we had a sizable amount of information, and now we have like the entire catalog scans as well as translations. I will put a link to the Twitter thread by Specialform that has the actual translations. So if you just want the information, link in the description. If you want to hear some information with my thoughts along with it, then stay here. Cool, good. First image is an image that came out ages ago. The very first image of Kamen Geo. It is pronounced Geo. It is spelled Zio. Got it. Time-themed rider, as you can probably tell from the image. He looks like a watch. With his antennas being like clock hands and everything. The eyes spell out rider in katakana, which is really cool. I could actually read that. Hey, I know a very small amount of katakana and hiragana, and I know enough to read that, which is great because that's going to come in handy later on. Hiragana is the very simple version of the Japanese alphabet. Katakana is similar to hiragana, except it directly translates to English, so it is easier to read, basically. And then, of course, there's hiragana. Then there's kanji, even, which is even more difficult to read. But hey, enough of the Japanese lessons. I just wanted to get that out of the way so people would know what I was talking about when I said hiragana and katakana. Yes. So, yes, the text and the eyes say Raida. In katakana, you can see the little dash on the side of the helmet is the thing that means that you say the previous character longer. You emphasize the sound, so it's da, rai, da. Yeah, cool. I'm showing off at this point. But yeah, no, I really like this design. We'll get back to the design a little bit because we get better images. This is just kind of a drawing from a Bataba Soul that leaked early. So yes, next image. This is by the Gamba Rising. It says in the bottom. This is from Gamba Rising, which I think is like the arcade game. This also leaked early. And this is an image of... So, the bottom left is Kamen Geo in their base form. Bottom right is Kamen Gates. I don't know how it's pronounced. Again, his eyes, from what I'm aware, just say Rider again. Except, see, the thing is, the font on his eyes are very difficult to read, so I'm not certain. But his name is Gates. I don't know how it's pronounced, if it's Gates or Gates. I remember last year I was like, oh, it's Kamen Close or Kamen Claws, and it ended up being Kamen Cross. So, you know, gotta kind of take that stuff with a pinch of salt, especially with katakana, because katakana is difficult for Japanese people to translate, because it directly translates into English words, which Japanese people don't tend to be the best at. But to be fair, I've spent this video so far just struggling to speak in Japanese, so there's been a bit of discussion going around as to who Kamen Gates is. Because originally people thought that Kamen Gates was a second form for Kamen Geo. I personally don't believe that. Basically, the general consensus was that Geo, which is the one on the left, is an AM form, whereas Gates is the PM form for Geo. So, he has two different main forms that can both transform into other forms themselves. I don't buy this. Of course, believe what you want to believe. You know, if you want to believe that it's two different forms, then fair enough. I think it's just a secondary rider. We usually tend to get, especially in the more recent series, we usually tend to get the secondary rider announced right at the beginning as well. I remember, again, with Build, we got Night Rogue and Cross Z. With Ghost, we got Spectre. With X-Aid, we got Brave and Snipe, and kinda Laser, because at that point he was just a motorbike rather than an actual rider, but you know. We usually get a secondary rider pretty early on, and I think his design is different enough for it to be another rider entirely, rather than just a different form. I mean, you could point out that they do both have the same belt, and again, later on images will do a better job of showing off the belt. So you could argue, oh, they have the same belt, but usually the secondary rider tends to start off with the same belt as the primary rider anyway, so I don't think that's a big enough excuse to be like, oh, it's the same person. But again, if you want to believe it's the same person, if that, all power to you, I guess. You can kind of very clearly see that Geo is like an analog watch, whereas Gates is like a digital clock, which I think is neat. Something we'll point out later, the belt is a digital clock too. The belt, when you use it, it lights up with a different number depending on what power-up you use or whatever. And the number is the year. So it's a year clock, so I guess it's more a calendar than it is an actual clock. But for example, Kamen Rider Geo has 2018 because it's the 2018 Kamen Rider series. And I assume they're going by the date that the series started, since Geo starts in 2018. Fair enough. Kamen Rider Gates, his one says 2068, which is 50 years in the future from now, which a lot of people speculate this is going to be a time travel plotline, and so the secondary rider being from the future makes a lot of sense. That's a really interesting thing to do. I kind of hope they bring back, I can't remember what he's called, but he's from the Kamen Rider Drive movie. He's like Shinosuke's son. I hope they bring him back. That would be a neat little thing, because he was also a rider from the future. So that could be neat as well, like bring back the other riders from the future. But yeah, they also have these things on their wrists. The things on their wrists, and they have one on each arm. What they do is they are the way of storing the collectible gimmick. They are not the transformation device. The transformation device is, as usual, the belt. All the thing on the wrist does is it stores the collectible of the series. The collectible of the series are ride watches, and basically they're stopwatches. That's like their kind of thing. So you know, X-Aid was game cartridges, Build was bottles. With this, it's stopwatches. They have like the button on the top, and again later on we'll get a better image kind of illustrating that better. But yes, they are stopwatches, and they go into like the bigger clock, which is neat. Again, we'll take a look at what they actually do in a sec. They're very big and chunky, which I quite like. I don't know, like, they look like very big and chunky. I imagine the actual toys will be much smaller than the props in show will be. But yeah, they look very big and chunky, but to be fair, you know, toy advert, I quite like the big and chunky toys anyway, so I don't have a problem with that. So yes, now let's go behind the two main riders, because you actually see, first of all, this is an anniversary series, hey! And second of all, you can see what the different power-ups are going to be like. So this is an anniversary series. I think it's the 20th, it's the 19th or 20th Heisei era series. And it's also the last of this era, I'm pretty sure. Which means we're getting another Decade series, basically. It was very up in the air for a while. Everyone's like, is this going to be Decade 2? And yes, it looks like this is going to be as close as we're going to get to Decade. How big is Decade itself going to play a role in the series? Too early to say. We haven't seen anything directly Decade related, but if we go back to Geo's actual suit, you'll see that Geo has a very similar color scheme to Decade, except they've kind of inverted the colors around. Whereas, so Decade was magenta with black and silver detailing, whereas Geo is black and silver with magenta detailing, which is really neat. I quite like the costume design. But yes, if we go back to the power-ups, we can see on the left side, Geo can transform into Build and X-Aid, and Gates can transform into Drive and Ghost, which is neat. And if you're interested in what the text on the visors for those forms say, they literally just say what the name of the rider they're transforming into is. So that one says Build. I mean, I'm pointing at them, but you can't see me pointing. But yeah, that one says Build, that says X-Aid, that says Drive, and that says Ghost. A really cool kind of thing. I don't know how much I like this, but whenever they transform into a previous rider, the gimmick of that rider series will be on their shoulder, which is interesting. Like, you can see there's a giant icon there, and there's like giant bottles and a giant gashette, and then a giant tire, which I guess tire makes more sense than a full car, because of course with Drive the gimmick was a car, not just the tire, but you know, the motif of the suit itself was more tire themed, so it makes sense. In terms of these forms, I think some look better than others. We do get, again, better images of them later on, but for now I'm going to say Ghost is my favorite looking out of them. Yeah, Ghost certainly isn't the best series out of all these, but Ghost is definitely the best looking out of these, in my opinion. I do like the no, actually, I like the Build one. The Drive one I'm not a big fan of, and if you can see, by judging by the antenna and the visors, you can see that Geo transforms into Drive and Xaid, whereas Gage transforms into Ghost and Drive. Why do I keep getting Drive and Build confused? Is it because they're my two favorite series with Red Riders? Maybe. Excuse me for that, please. But yeah, let's go into the next image then. Okay, so now we get the poster of the series, and this is the first of the proper images. Thanks to Tokullectibles for scanning this image in, I assume, because they put a giant watermark over it. I mean, hey, if they scanned it in, then fair enough, good, and like, you know, fair enough for them to put a watermark on, but yeah. So yes, here's the poster of the series, and once again we get a much better look at Kamen Rider Geo and a much better look at Kamen Rider Gates. You can very clearly see that the two of them have the same belt, and you can very kind of clearly see the Geo's belt says 2018 in the middle, so you can kind of see how the light gimmick works, which I think that's a cool gimmick for a belt, and that's not the only gimmick the belt has. Basically, if you see, there's like an arrow at the top of the belt, like a green arrow right on, like on the white part. That means, wait for it, the belt is basically an hourglass as well as a clock. And what you can do is, once you insert the stopwatch into it, you can twist the belt around and twist it upside down to transform, which is pretty sick. I quite like that a lot. But yeah, let's talk about Geo's suit for a bit, because I do like the color scheme, and again, black and silver, but with like the magenta pink kind of accents and stuff really look nice. I love the helmet. The helmet is by far my favorite thing from this suit, and let's talk about it. Like, anyone that knows anything about Kamen Rider Geo is like, oh, when's he gonna talk about this bit? And okay, fine, let's talk about it. The chest is puffy. Geo's chest is very puffy in a lot of the images that they show him in, which leads me and a few other people to believe that there might be some breasts underneath, and that's why it's so puffy. Meaning, this would be the first time ever that we have a protagonist to a Kamen Rider series that is a female. We have had female writers before, but none of them have been the actual main character. In fact, barely any of them actually get that much screen time. I'm in favor of this. I'm not necessarily like, oh, it's definitely gonna happen, because I know for a fact what Toei are like, and Toei probably aren't the kind of people to usually do this. But if it is confirmed, I'd be in favor of it. But I'm not getting my hopes too high or too low. Like, I think it could be one, it could be the other. Like, you know, she has pink detailing, but I feel like the pink detailing is more a reference to Decade than it would be a sign of gender. Again, female protagonists would be really cool just because we've never had it before in a Kamen Rider series. But yeah, it's too early to say. Like, I mean, I will admit, multiple images have the chest bulge. So, you know, like, it's not like it's just one bad image. There's quite a few that, like, kind of show this chest bulge. So there's something there. Whether that's just a part of the design, because it could be. I mean, you know, Kamen Rider has had bulky armor before. Like, Gaim had really bulky armor too. It's just this could be bulky in a different way. I really like the stripe kind of going down the chest. is like a watch strap. That's really neat. I really like the dial on the side of the helmet. I really like. It's a really good looking suit. Do I like it more than Build's? Probably not. I think I like Build and X-Aid's both more. And I know immediately people are going to be like, well, you don't have an opinion because you like X-Aid's suit. And I'm like, yeah, I do like X-Aid's suit. And I do think this one's really good. Like, it's really good. But I'm just saying that compared to those two, I don't like it quite as much. Like, the second I saw Builds, I was like, yep, I'm sold. I love this series. Zeos, I still... Jeez, I said Zeo on accident. Geos I like. Again, the helmet's the best part, but the rest of the suit is still good, but, like, yeah. I do like the really bulky, chunky, like, things on the wrists to hold stopwatches, or the ride watches. I like the way the, like, gloves are done with, like, the arrow on them. And I like all that stuff, and I really like the belt, but, I don't know, legs looking a little bit plain. Let's get to the secondary rider now. So, yes, the secondary rider is Kamen Rider Gates. I like his design. Honestly, I think I like his design more. Yeah, I really like the color red. You could probably tell because Aster has a lot of red to his design. Aster is the channel mascot, by the way. You know, I really like the color red. Red is my favorite color. Probably because I grew up with Power Rangers, actually. But, you know, yeah, red's my favorite color. Kamen Rider Gates' design is very red. You probably can't see it here, because this is probably the worst image I could have used to illustrate this with. Because there's, like, very much a pink filter over him, and, like, a bunch of text. You can see he's wearing the GQ driver as well. See, I remembered the name. I did research. I wrote down some notes. Haha, epic. Jeez, this video is a train wreck. But yeah, if you zoom in a lot, I'll see if I can do this whilst I'm editing the video. You can see that his driver says 2068. People are saying it could be 2066, and it's like, yeah, it could be, but it makes more sense to be 2068. Just because that's exactly 50 years from now. But yeah, I love his design. His design I like more than Geo's, honestly. Also, this is part of the Geo being a girl theory. Basically, people are like, well, if Geo is going to be a girl, one of the downsides to having a female protagonist in a male-oriented show like this is, you know, little boys want an older boy to look up to, an older male character to kind of look up to and buy toys from, basically. And that's why every previous Kamen Rider, or every previous Kamen Rider protagonist has been a male, because that's just how things work. I don't know why it works like that specifically. I'm not here to deconstruct complicated gendered stereotype stuff or anything. But basically, the way to get around that is by having it be like a buddy cop kind of series, where, I mean, not necessarily with cops, but have it with two main rider characters that get around about as much screen time as each other, and have one of them be a boy and the other one being a girl, because then you still have the boy to take up most of the screen time and everything, despite not actually being the protagonist, just sell the toys and stuff, which makes sense. In fact, they probably should have done that with Banjo Ryuga with Build, because goddamn did Banjo take up all of the screen time and the character development, and I'm not mad with that, actually, because I really like Banjo Ryuga, but yeah, geez, he took up all of the screen time and all the character development, which I'm happy with, because I like Banjo, but yeah, basically, they could be doing that kind of thing again with this, where they have one of them be a girl, and then the other one be a boy, which makes sense. I'm not sure if I actually believe that she'll be a girl 100%. I don't want to like side too much with one side when it comes to that, but yeah, I really like both of these suits. I do like Gates a bit more though. Also with this image you get a little bit of a clearer look at some of the ride watches, but I think in the next image or so we'll get an even better look. Yeah, okay, cool. Here's the GQ driver, and we can very clearly see how like the clock works. With the number in 2018, you can see that like to activate the stopwatch, you have to like twist the thing so that so the visor lines up, and then press the button at the top to make it light up. Which, it says here that it's like the Gashapon ones that light up, but I imagine the DX versions must also light up, because it's like, well, the DX versions are always the best ones. I mean, hell, I can even see here on the image itself, I can see the letters DX, so I assume the DX ones light up too, as well as the Gashapon ones. Also, thank you, Tokullectibles, nice watermark again. I mean, hey, you want credit, I'm going to say your name a bunch. But yeah, so the stopwatches look kind of neat. Again, I like how big and chunky they are. Twisting them doesn't seem quite as, like, satisfying as the bottles. I really like the 4 bottles from Build, how you can just kind of shake them. Whereas with these, it's like you twist them. I mean, honestly, they remind me of Lock Seeds a lot. But yeah, I like them. Also, if there's a button that makes them light up, then yes, that means the sounds come from the ride watches, which is really interesting. I wonder how much of the sounds do, because I don't know if this says that whether or not the belt itself has any of the sounds, because this could be like the XA driver or the gamer driver, where it's actually the gashats that make all of the noise and the belt doesn't do anything, which I quite like. There's a lot of benefits to that, like preventing spoilers and everything, and also just having more kind of in-depth sounds for each individual collectible. It means that the belt is around about the same price or a little bit cheaper than usual, but the collectibles are quite a bit more expensive than usual. But I like how XA did it. We can kind of tell this belt the GQ driver will have electronics, because again it has the light up the light up number, so it might be like Ghost, where the gimmick kind of does half the work and the belt also does half the work. It also looks like you can insert 2 of the ride watches into the driver at once. I imagine that'll be something that takes more of kind of a role later on when we get some more kind of advanced power-ups that require both sides to be filled. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. And also we get like some arrows to kind of show that the belt itself kind of turns around too. So yes, and we also get a look at Gates again. Here we get a much better look at him being like red and everything. And this image, I assume, basically just serves to show that the belt works basically the exact same way for him too. Next image, and we get a bunch of examples of the other ride watches, as well as better looks at the suits. So we get Build, and we get X8, and we get Ghost, and we get Drive. So I would say expect Build and Ghost to be the first 2 of these to show up in the actual show. Main reason why is because we've actually got photos of the real suits, whereas the X8 and Drive ones don't have finished suits yet. Those ones both have drawings. In fact, X8 has a much more detailed drawing too, so I imagine Drive will be one that appears fairly later on, and by fairly later on, I mean fairly later on within the first quarter, so don't expect it any time past the episode 12 mark, but yeah, because yeah, that's how they do it. They have the suit completed, they'll use a photo of the suit. They don't, then they'll use a drawing. So yes, honestly, this image of the Build one, I'm not the biggest fan of, because in the other image it looked better, whereas here you can kind of see there's a lot of grey on the suit. I mean, it still looks good, but yeah, the GQ watches themselves look neat too. Yeah, and of course you can see I said expect Ghost to be one of the first 2, and Ghost is one of Gates' power-ups, which leads me to believe like Gates will probably be introduced like episode 2 or 1, or like really early on, just like with X-Aid, where they introduced Brave in episode 2. So yes, those are the first 4. It makes sense for these to be the first 4 power-ups, because Anniversary series, but also these are the 4 most recent, so it makes sense. In descending order too, you know, Build, Exit, Ghost, Drive. That's neat. These are the series I've seen, so that's good too. I've seen everything Gaim onwards, so these are the ones I'm familiar with. So as far as Anniversary series goes, it's pandering to me. I've seen some earlier stuff too. I've seen parts of Blade, and I've seen all of the original, I've seen all of the first Amazon, I've seen all of Amazon's, which, that'll be interesting to see if that makes an appearance, because that's a really recent series too. That aired during Ghost. So, yeah, I don't know if Amazon will make an appearance. It did in one of the movies. And I could see them making a power-up for it. We'll see. Too early to say. Again, the actual stopwatches look neat. Let's go to the next image. Okay, cool. Just more images of the belt as well as the sword. So we have the G-Con Grade is what the sword is called. And as per usual, typical kind of like rider fashion, the sword also turns into a gun, which is neat. I like how small it is. There's another image later on that kind of shows a more accurate proportioned version of the sword, because of course with these kinds of things the sword is always smaller as a weapon, as a toy, than it is in the actual show. So we'll see. So this is a very kind of small one, but honestly I kind of like the small swords when they're done right, because when they're done right it just makes them look like a really cool dagger, which is neat. Of course, I will admit Toei Bandai more specifically do this wrong more than they do it right. But yeah, the gun looks a little bit iffy. But to be fair, the gun usually looks fairly iffy because it's usually the sword form that they design first. You've also got some writing here too. I assume it says like sword and gun. I can't read that. Yeah, I'm not the best at reading that. Again, link it to wherever you want actual information. You also have where you can slot in the collectible too, which is really neat, because where you put the stopwatch actually has like a little watch strap to it, which makes the stopwatch look like a watch, which is neat. And again, you get another image of the belt like turning around, as if that hasn't been exaggerated enough. And here's another example of my female rider theory. Once again, another image. Chest still kind of bumps out a bit, Again, not sure what that means, and if that does mean we'll get a female rider, but again, it's still there. As well as Tokullectibles watermark again. Visit Tokullectibles. I think they're a store. I think they're an online store. Yeah, visit them. They're great watermarks, etc. As well as another image. Oh jeez, I keep pointing at the screen and knocking my PC around. And another image like just kind of showing, hey look, the watch also has like a turnaround functionality to it. I wonder what like the theme of the series is, like turning things around in time, and wow, they're really on the nose about this. Here's a couple of pages of potential upcoming. So now we get a look at some of the upcoming future ride watches, which is neat. You got Forze, you got Fies, you got Mark, and you got Meteor. As well as two silhouetted ones, but I'm not even going to bother speculating what they'll be. They'll be riders from relatively recent series that you remember and recognize because anniversary. Like, there's no point speculating which one specifically, because it's going to be all of them eventually, right? Interesting to note, we've got secondary riders here. So it's not just primary riders from recent series, it's also secondary riders too, like Mark and Meteor, which is cool because I really like Mark. Mark is one of my favorite Kamen Rider characters, along with Kiria from X8 and Banjo Ryuga from Build. I almost said Drive again. Why do I keep getting those series mixed up? Maybe it's because they're both really good. I already made this joke earlier, shut up me. Interesting to note, Fies is here. Which I guess is to just be like, hey look, older series are here too. I mean, to call Fies an older series is a bit of a misnomer, because like that's 2005. The older series are the 70s. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how old they'll go then, because I assumed they were only going to be doing Neo Heisei stuff. So everything that happened right after Decade. So double onwards. So it's interesting to see Fies here too. I guess they're going to be doing other Heisei stuff. I mean, I imagine they were going to be doing Decade as well, just obligatory anniversary, full circleness and everything. But yeah, Fies is there too, and that's cool because I've heard Fies is a really good rider, and it'll be interesting to see what other older riders we get. Here's another page of other riders, and we'll be getting. Oh, it's X8 again. Okay, cool. Nah, I'm joking. That was legitimately a joke. I already knew X8 was going to be on this page. You've also got Ryuki, you've also got Brave, and you've also got Rogue. Rogue is interesting, because Rogue confirms that it won't just be primary and secondary riders. Because Rogue isn't even like the third rider or tertiary rider. Like, he's like the one that comes in around about the halfway point, you know? So that's really neat and interesting. To be fair, Build is the most recent series up to this point, so I guess it makes sense that they'll be referencing that series the most. But yeah, that's cool to see. So it won't just be primary and secondary riders. And also, we've got Ryuki there to kind of show that, yes, we will be bringing back other Heisei, like early Heisei riders, along with Faiz. It won't just be Faiz, and it won't just be Neo Heisei. So that's neat. Also, you got Brave there, which again, kind of expected. If Mark was going to be there, then Brave was probably going to be there. Again, if they're going with Rogue and going with like tertiary riders and stuff, would have been cool to see Kyria. We're probably going to get Kyria at some point. Again, I don't mind, but you know, Brave. I don't think Brave is many people's favorite X-Aid rider, right? Like, Brave is, in my opinion, is one of the more boring ones. I like Kyria. I don't think that's a particularly unpopular opinion either. Kyria and Gem are like by far the two most popular X-Aid riders anyway, so here's another image. I promised myself I wouldn't dwell on this too long, but again, puffed out chests, I'll leave it there. Here's another neat thing. The stopwatches have a little like metal chain on them. I imagine it's detachable. Hopefully it comes with the gimmick. Like having to buy one of those for every single stopwatch you get is kind of a pain in the ass. I know I keep calling them stopwatches, not ride watches, but I don't care. Yeah. Here's another Faiz again. Here's Forze again. Here's O's again. Here's Gem again. Wait a second, O's, you weren't there before. Whoa. Yeah, O's is there. And so is Gem. Hey, look, the thing I said about Gem being better than Brave. Whoa. Fortune telling. Also, not sure about, like, if you look under the belt of Geo, which sounds a bit creepy now that I keep implying that she's a girl, but I don't like the way the, like, watch strap just kind of awkwardly ends there. Yeah, it's a nitpick with the design. Again, I think everything belt upwards, including the belt itself, looks great, but everything under that is like, eh. The knee pads remind me a lot of Ryuki's knee pads, actually. But yeah, although I know that they're supposed to look like the stopwatches, but that's what that reminds me of. Here's a more proportional... I mean, this is more like a joke kind of page, because it's like, hey look, here's inflatable toys. But again, I'm more using this for the actual images outside of that. And here you get an image of Geo using the sword again. And like I said, it's a more like, it's the kind of proportions you'd expect the sword to be in. So this is what the sword will look like in the show. Whereas again, the toy one looks more like a dagger, which again, I quite like. I mean, I don't like that you can't get the actual sized ones, but I understand, like, shipping and packaging problems, as well as you don't want kids to have access to swords that big, even if they are just toys. So I get it, but, like, yeah. Also, this kind of confirms that you can... I think an image earlier showed it too, but I skipped past it because I'm not very good at this. But, yeah, this kind of shows that you can, like, swap out the tip of the gun with like a build one and an X-Aid one. Okay, I don't really particularly care for that. And then here's another image. Is this the last one? No, these are the last two. These two kind of go together. Once again, here's another look at the Ghost and Build Ride Watch. And I think this is just kind of showing that it can go into the like armband thing. You can see like, oh, you can use the collectibles in the belt and in the arcade game and everything, so that's neat. As well as like the gachapon, like gacha machines. It also shows, hey look, this thing takes batteries. This is like the very kind of mundane stuff. I mainly included this because of the amazing Tokullectibles watermark again. Nah, I'm joking. I mainly included this because the image of Geo looks cool. And also, because it has a twin image, I guess, of Kamen Rider Gates, and this is the image that kind of convinced me, that made me think that Gates had a cool look and design. than Geo. I really like this image of Gates. I don't like the, again, below the belt, like the watch strap kind of thing just kind of ends. But at least here it looks kind of neater than Geo's one, where it just kind of weirdly like curves at a weird angle. Whereas here, I mean, again, maybe in the show itself they'll fix that. But yeah, I really like it. I like the spandex itself. Looks like the kind of spandex they used for Gaim. The spandex itself looks very kind of thick and shiny, which Gaim's one definitely did too. Maybe I'm speaking out my ass here. But yeah. And that's the last image. Yeah, no, that's Kamen Rider Geo. That's basically all the information we got so far. It's an anniversary series. It's presumably a time travel series. It's time themed. Maybe female rider, maybe not. Secondary rider gets a prominent role. Again, people still think he's a power-up, but I totally think he's a secondary rider. I mean, how he has a different name. The cool, like, wrist thing holds the gimmick in. The ride watches look kind of neat. The belt looks alright. Definitely not my favorite belt. I like the build driver more, just in terms of aesthetics. But functionally, it looks great. I think this might be a series where the toys are better than the series itself, and I mainly say that because, one, the toys look great. The toys look fucking fantastic. But also, this is an anniversary series, and I don't love anniversary series. Gokaiger is okay. I like Gokaiger, but I feel like Gokaiger is around about as good as an anniversary series can really get. I mean, I know everyone adores Gokaiger, and I thought it was okay, but I don't like it when shows rely too much on references in the past and everything. Mentioning the past every once in a while is fine, but having an entire series where all of the power-ups are references to previous series is like, it doesn't do anything for me. I mean, again, seeing, like, Drive and Build back will be cool, and X-Aid. Like, seeing those characters back again could be cool, assuming they do it properly, unlike how Decade did it, which is a shame, because they're probably going to do it how Decade did it, which, again, is a shame. But again, if they do bring back Build and Drive and X-Aid properly, then that'll be interesting and neat. But again, the massive, like, just look at the thing that you recognize, I don't care. I've never particularly cared for that kind of thing in anything. Like, I'd rather see an original story. But then again, Build was so good that even if this series ends up being mediocre, I won't really mind too much, just because, like, Build was good, and it's like Build was good enough to tide me over for a good 2 or so years. And so, I feel like even if the story for this series is kind of bad, I feel like this series will at least have cool looking suit designs and a bunch of references, which again don't do much for me, but for other people they will, as well as just really nice like action scenes and stuff. So even if it's a bad series, it'll probably still be entertaining. As for whether or not I'm going to be watching it, what do you think? I've been talking for over half an hour now, so I think that kind of explains on its own that I'm interested enough to watch it. Basically, ever since I got into Kamen Rider, I was like, yeah, every new Kamen Rider series that starts airing is basically like an automatic, I'll try it out, and none of them I've dropped so far either. So, even Ghost, I watched Ghost as it was airing, and I still didn't really fall behind or drop it, so even though I'm not the biggest fan of Ghost. But again, I feel like at worst, this is probably going to be like Ghost. So take that how you will. But yeah, no. That's Kamen Rider Geo. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not as excited as I was for Build, but I'm still, like, really looking forward to it. Again, I think the toys will probably be a little bit better than the show. I don't have the highest hopes in the world for the show itself, in terms of the storyline. I don't think it's going to be as good as something like Drive or Build, or even X-Aid. But again, I'll be happy to be proven wrong, so, and I'm going to be watching nonetheless. So yes, that's Kamen Rider Geo, starts September, just like how Build started. I imagine Build started in September just to prove me wrong, because in my Build video I said that Build was going to start in October, and then they moved the date forward, like the assholes that they are. But yeah, so that's. I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am. Feel free to fact check me in the comment section because I know you bloody well will. Nah, I'm being sarcastic. But hey, yeah, if I got any information wrong, or if you want to make fun of me for thinking she might be a girl, then yeah, all that stuff. Feel free comments. I read them all. I don't reply to them all because I'm very kind of I would like to say busy, but it's more I'm just kind of anxious. I don't like talking, but I mean I like talking. I'm just very I should just stop the video now. Okay then.